The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors: Woodland Stud, Brecon Farms, New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred, Stonewall Stud, the clubs Alexandra Park, Cambridge, Addington and Ashburton, Garrard's Horse and Hound, and IRT. It's your horse and our passion. Hi everyone, welcome into another edition of Your Box Seat, and a big thank you to our stable of sponsors who continue to get behind your show. Michael Guerin, in the strange world we live in, we get to Alexandra Park on Friday night, and that's got to be a great thing for the code, the fact that we have a premier meeting and some mouth-watering clashes.
Yeah, Greg, it's been an odd week. The fact that where I'm sitting in Auckland is lockdown level 3, where you're sitting in Christchurch is lockdown level 2. We do thank Trackside for enabling us to use the studio with very safe protocols so we can have the show today. So what it means for Friday night is this: there's going to be a very small number of drivers from the Waikato who have been given exemptions, either historic or new exemptions, to come up to drive at the meeting. That's 4 of them so far. Mark Purdon will make the trip, or has already made the trip, from Christchurch to Auckland, and he will take the reins on Oak's favourite Better Twist, because Tim Williams won't be making the trip. Mark Jones suspended, so he won't be making the trip. We'll hear from him later on via yourself, Gregory. And I wouldn't think we're going to see too many other Cantabrians. I spoke to John Dunn earlier in the week, and he was still mulling over whether he would come north. So on the track, we're going to have no owners allowed, which is the ATC, of course, feels terrible about, but getting the racing done first is most importantly, Greg. So the racing will happen, no owners. It'll be a workplace venue with very strict protocols. And I believe Craig the Whale Thompson will cover the meeting from here in the studios in Auckland rather than being on track, but there'll still be heaps of quality information for you. That aside, Greg, it won't really change the viewing experience much for the people at home, apart from the fact, of course, that we won't be able to talk to the winning Group 1 drivers after the race.
No, and we have 7 group races, of course, throughout the evening, so it's an exceptional night, starting with the Woodlands Derby. So we'll get straight into the preview of Alexandra Park and go back to the Derby prelude last week, and this was Krug getting back to his absolute best. Brilliant drive by Tony Hurler. He will get Aaron White to bring them home, and then hear from winning co-trainer Crandell Giddy, and Ray Green about American Dealer as well.
He's coming to the outside. Krug's got them by 2. Krug, it's all about Faith, offers back now and starts to really lengthen hard. Krug, it's all about Faith. Krug, the Iceman, lovely drive to get the win. Second, it's all about Faith. American Dealer third.
Well, it didn't look good at the start. It looked ominous in the middle stages, and it all worked out pretty well.
Yes, you exactly summed it up right. It was a race, a lot happened in a short time. I said to Tony, the only place he didn't want to be is parked, and mid-race, well, what do we do now? But you can see why he's the best, and he summed up the situation perfectly, and we're very lucky to get a second last quarter pretty tame, and he sort of just showed a lot of speed and out-sprinted the second horse.
I suppose a typical Derby prelude, in the fact that when you do launch, nobody wants to get into a fight. Often drivers won't do it, but Tony, being Tony, decided to take the bull by the scruff of the neck.
Yes, exactly the case. And I said, well, it's 27 next week, and we just don't want to be lying down after this race and be fresh in 6 days' time or 7 days' time. So Tony is our man, and he summed it up, and I feel great that the outcome was really good. So the horse will be recovered pretty good after that event.
Where is Krug at in his career? Because he looked the dominant 2/3-year-old at the start of the season. He had a time where he got a little bit tired. Is he still coming back to his peak, or have others caught up to him physically?
Combination of a few things there, Mick. He was very dominant actually, but the others have come up to his expectations as well, to their expectations obviously. But I will say I've lifted his workload of recent. I've been probably model codding him, I'd probably say, a little bit my own sort of issue that I shouldn't have done, but I've really lifted his workload and he's lifted with it. So just shows they've got to go to that next step, and he has going to it now with the workload.
It looks an intriguing derby. It's probably not going to be a big field, but if you add a couple more horses to it, like a BD Joe type horse, it's not going to be an easy race to win. It could be extremely tactical.
If it was a two-horse race, it would be hard to win, Mick. Because every horse that gets to the Derby, when you think of all the 3-year-olds in all the country, and they're down to the last sort of 18, 15 horses or whatever they may be, you've headed a lot off to get there. So in all respect to the horse that's least favoured in the field, so we'll be privileged to be there, but to try and win the race, a lot of things will have to go our way because it won't be an easy kill.
Couple of wins at Alexandra Park here on the Friday night. What about wins at the sales? You paid some big money for horses during the week. Did the sales go the way you wanted them to go? Or like a lot of people, were you stunned by the strength at the top end?
The enthusiasm was off the scale. I think in all tracks around NZ, if we're racing for peanuts, the sales will still be good. The enthusiasm in the industry is tenfold. It's actually great. It's exciting for the industry. It really is. We want to be here competing with a commodity that's fast and big and bold and strong, and we're all trying to get that one. If we do get it or don't get it, who knows? But the excitement's there, and I got caught up in the swim and excited to be part of it.
Well, Ray, that looks like the run you have a week before a derby.
Yeah, it was he pulled up really well, and he wasn't going to rush past anybody a 26 and change quarter. But no, he was. I was very happy with him.
Are you finding it hard to peak and re-peak these horses, because he's had about 4 or 5 grand finals already this season?
Yeah, but the good ones can do it. They get you out of trouble every time. It's the slow ones that's hard to peak.
Yeah, Ray Green there, and he's talking with a lot of sense, Michael. And was that Crandell Getty talking there? Because he actually spoke in a language that most people could understand for a change.
Yeah, I think it's the class of the interviewer, Greg. I think if you deal with professionals, you'll be okay. Look, he had a massive week, so obviously that was recorded last Friday. Huge week at the sales, paying 300 plus for horses. Then obviously coming out at Alexandra Park and winning with two horses who go on to the Derby. Now, most importantly, he has been in Auckland since last Friday night. So some other horse people, for example, Hayden Cullen. Hayden's in the South Island trying to run a big team. He may have wanted to come to Auckland, but of course he can't now. So that's crucial, Greg, because this week he's been able to work Krug how he wants to work him. Now, Krug has been given plenty of work. He has been the horse blessed by the draws. Of the top 4, he got barrier 5. It's All About Faith got barrier 8. American Dealer 7, and BD Joe 1 on the second line. I think, Gregory, the Tabs made a mistake with this market, and I'm certain, maybe by the time people watch this, or definitely by race start time, they've got It's All About Faith as the favourite for the Derby, and Krug is second favourite. Krug will start favourite in the Derby.
Yep, I totally concur with that.
In fact, I think he'll start about 2.4, Greg.
Right, so the 3.2 that's come up early doors is outstanding.
It is, and I spoke to Cran about where he goes from last week to this week. He said, look, we're going to go forward at the start, but I've been working the horse harder.
Yep.
And he's a bettor's delight, and they did it with him last year for one of the Group 1s, and he came out of it a far better horse. I'm not saying he's clearly superior to them, because It's All About Faith was really good there, Gregory, but unless I'm watching different types of races, with the barrier draws this week, I thought Krug could go forward, lead, and then have options to lead or hand up. And I thought he was clearly the horse to beat.
Yep, $4.80 American Dealer, then you're getting out to about $10 for Luke John. That's the first of the Group 1s. The next we want to have a look at is the performance of Better Twist last week in the Peter Brecken Memorial, and this is the key lead-up race to the Oaks. Michael, turning for home, this was a Mark Jones special. I thought he'd pinched it, but this very good staying filly was able to get her on the line again. Better Twist getting up to beat La Rosa.
Better Twist on the outside, Darling Me is flashing. La Rosa, Better Twist grinding away, Better Twist right on the line. The Brecken colours, I think, get the Group 2 glory here. It'll be a photo, but I think the big girl's in. Better Twist from La Rosa.
Yeah, brilliant performance from her. La Rosa had to succumb as she has. She's had 4 runs at Alexandra Park. 3 times she's clashed with Better Twist, and she's got her measure each time. Although, Michael, this was only by the barest of margins, and an appropriate win in those colours in the late Peters race, of course.
Yeah, the Peter Brecken Memorial, of course, Ken and Karen sponsoring this race and owning this horse with one of their filly syndicates. So pretty emotional time for them, I'm sure. I just can't see how they beat this horse in the Oaks. I realise obviously horses can drop out of form or they can lose 10% in a week for various reasons. I just can't see it happening with her. She was always going to improve on last week's run. She's always going to improve at 2,700 metres. I'm stunned at the information you gave me before we started recording this today, Greg. I thought she'd be $1.20, maybe $1.30 for the Oaks. They're giving $1.70. I just don't see who else is going to back any other horse in this race. And that's not disrespecting La Rosa, who won't be as well suited by 2,700 metres or the wide barrier. It's not disrespecting Enjoy Me. I spoke to Steve Telfer, her trainer. He said that interrupted preparation is costing us. We don't think she's our best chance this week. Their best chance for Team Telfer, they believe, is Darling Me. And I don't want to back Darling Me to beat Better Twist over 2,700 metres. Greg, I think she'll start $1.30, maybe $1.35. Mark Purdon takes the reins with Tim not coming north. I just don't see how she's not in front with 2 laps to go, Gregory, and like her mum, Twist and Twirl, she wins. So
to be winning the race,
the $1.70 is an outstanding price.
Yeah,
outstanding for the TAB.
That will certainly tumble in. $8.50 about Darling Me. There is half a chance she might be able to get across her at the start, but Mark Jones's horse has been crawled a bit by the draw, as you mentioned. Maurice McKendry will take the reins on La Rosa, but I got a quick grab with Mark yesterday about her performance last week. Mark, first of all, let's concentrate on the Auckland situation, and have you applied for an exemption to be able to get there?
No, I haven't, Greg. I'm actually currently suspended, and we spoke about it, about getting Sam an exemption, and just talking to the owners, it is a bit hard to do, and there are rules in place, and it was going to be a bit hard to do. So at this stage, we've just booked Maurice McKendry. We've done that over the weekend, and we're more than happy for Maurice to handle our horses for us.
All right, well, let's start with La Rosa. I don't want to give you too many plaudits, but you almost got it bang on in the Peter Brecken Memorial Ladyship. It was a great performance. Yeah,
she's racing great, but I don't think there's any more we could have done, and probably the 2 times it's beat us when Sam's driven it. I think Better Twist is just a better horse than us, so we've given it a crack each time, and Better Twist just seems a better horse, so we've got no complaints.
You've been crawled by the draw this week as well. You come to the outside with Better Twist drawn handily in 2. There's no doubt who's the one to beat.
Yeah, well, she's a benchmark of the fillies, and she looks like it's her race to lose from the draw. But over 2,700, we're not too worried about the draw. It's we can't do much about it, and she can go around, sit parked, and relax if she has to, and she has got a bit of speed. So it's will be. But the draws haven't been in our favour anyway.
So that's Mark Jones's thoughts there on La Rosa. She was very brave last week, but she's going to have to be incredible from that wide draw. Let's continue on with our preview of Alexandra Park and move to the Cardigan Bay Stakes. Michael, this one again at Group 1 level. We haven't had an enormous amount of exposed form, but I did want to have a look at Montana DJ's race that he won, because most of the main contenders come out of this.
Yeah, they do. This is the last of the heats. And Montana DJ was really good, beating one of my favourite little horses in the north, and Classy Operator. I just love Classy Operator. Goes forward, he's only little, he runs really hard, and he makes these races. Now, Montana DJ needed to be really good to get past him last time. He'll need to be good to get past him again this time. That's Classy Operator in front. There's Montana DJ outside him. He doesn't get him by much, but you would suggest maybe he'll be the horse who improves the most. There's Mr. Ibiza back on the inside. He gets into 3rd, and he's been really good as well. But that last 50 metres, Greg, suggests to me that probably Montana DJ can win this race. Spoke to Barry Purdon about him. He said both my 2-year-olds, him and Major Perry, are in a good space. They're not weakening off. They're not getting tired. They're here and ready to go. I think Classy Operator leads. I think Montana DJ maybe beats him. But, Greg, you can make a really strong case here that because he should be in front, Classy Operator's a good each-way bet. And I would like to see Dylan Ferguson get his Group 1 as a driver, Graham Rogerson get his one as a trainer. I just think maybe Montana DJ might get him, but I'm happy enough to be on him each way. For the sheer fact I think he'll be the leader in the race.
Yeah, not a lot difference to tote-wise anyway with the bookmakers. $2.80 about Montana DJ, $3 Classy Operator. And Major Perry, who was hitting the line really strongly there, $6, but has been somewhat cruelled by the draw, having to start from the outside of the front row. That is the Brecon Farms Cardigan Bay Stakes at Group 1 level, the third of our Group 1s out of Alexandra Park. The free-for-all pace is, well, an opportunity again for Copy That to continue on his winning way. It is the City of Auckland free-for-all. Here was Copy That last week, Michael, in front. Overall time, a time you would expect him to win as comfortably as he did. Christians Have Time was excellent in second, though.
He was, and very painless watch for punters who took the shorts. It's about $1.40 for him for this week to do the same thing, Greg. I don't see how he doesn't just roll to the lead and win. Christians Have Time could well be on his back this week, and I think the respect for Christians Have Time grows every time he walks onto the track, to be honest. But again, if Copy That's in front, I don't see any attackers, and if Christians Have Time sitting on his back, can he beat him with 210 yards to do it in? I doubt that. That was an apt win. It was the Lincoln Farms, the Founders Cup, and of course the boys, they may not own him, they train him at Lincoln Farms. So I think he'll win, Greg, and I'll be honest, it's easy to slag the bookies all the time, but I think there's 3 horses here today who will start favourites in these 3 races, who have all been huge overs. I think Better Twist is massive overs, and I think Copy That will probably start $1.15. He might start $1.20, but he won't start $1.40.
No, he's $1.40 currently, $4.60 Christians Have Time, the only other one clearly in the market. So yes, Michael, there'll be a few multis being played through those major races. Let's continue with our preview of Alexandra Park and go to the Mayor's race, which is the third on the program. This is the Magnus Benroe Northern Classic. This was last week. Mark Jones' Plutonium Lady getting to the centre of the track. You will notice she lays in here over Mimia Coco and affects the chances of Need You Now. Mark Jones getting 5 days for this, but she was excellent, Plutonium Lady. She made it win 7 from start 32. This head-on does show it. She just lay in far enough to tighten things up. Stays sort of got locked there, and it made it impossible for Need You Now, who was, of course, Michael Guerin's bet of the week. But she's a pretty good horse, Plutonium Lady. She likes Alexandra Park. She's been group placed there before, Group 1 place, Michael, and she was excellent there.
Yeah, she was. Really good drive from Mark. He didn't move too early. He was in the 1-1 and he had control of the race because Need You Now, if she wanted to come wide around him, the hot favourite, he had the option to go in front of her or follow her. So he didn't need to move and he controlled himself and then wore down Mimia Coco on the line. Obviously the big, shall we say, gut punch for punters was Need You Now. Spoke to John Dunn about his drive. He said, look, you just can't go to the well every start. He thought a couple more rivals in front of him might go to the marker pegs and he would get on to the back of Plutonium Lady. Had he done that, he probably would have won. But he said, look, we just can't do this every start. He spoke to the Stipes about that and said, once we were back in the field, we're not going to go sit parked every day of the week. And I accept that. It was hard to watch after tipping at Gregory because they keep getting beat at the moment. But I reckon she'll probably win this week, to be honest. And I fully take it on board that punters want every horse to be put in the race every week. But that's not how it works. And yep, that was one of those examples last week. And the answer to your question, yes, I backed it. Yes, I could be dirty on the drive. The bottom line is I have to respect the fact that drivers aren't going to put them to the sword every week if by the middle stages of the race, Greg, things aren't going their way.
Yeah, and these horses aren't motor cars. It's pretty straightforward, Michael. You're right. You can't go to the well every single time, but $1.60 the price there, and Plutonium Ladies $2.80. That is in the Magnus Benroe Northern Classic. Let's go on to the Green Lane Cup. We get another opportunity to see Bolt for Brilliance here, Michael, and his price is $1.50. So the run of the multis might continue, and you'd probably expect him to win. Woodstone won the race last year. He's $9.50, and then you've got Temporale at $4.40.
He's off 20 metres, Greg, but I think as long as he stays in front of Temporale, which he has under these similar circumstances recently, when he's been 10 metres in front of Temporale at the start, he's stayed in front of him, then he'll have tactical advantage. He's a better horse than Temporale anyway, but if Temporale got in front of him and was able to roll around and get the lead, things might change, but I just don't see that happening. I think he'll win again, Greg. I think there's no reason to think he's not the best trotter in the North Island, and he's first pick in any race that doesn't include Sunday's Sun. Majestic Man we'll talk about a bit later on. He's going to pop up winning another Group 1 in Australia, Greg. But yep, Bolt for Brilliance, entirely happy to take $1.50 about him, particularly because I think he's getting fitter with every start.
All right, so he's won $1.50. Move on to the Delightful Lady Classic for the 2-year-old fillies to complete a 7-race group race night there at Alexandra Park. This one with Crombie Lockwood. Favourite Michael has come up, Artisan. She has won 2 of her 3 starts and was second behind American Beauty in the other. She's come up with 3 the second row and $2.90, Michael. Dance Till Dawn was excellent. I thought first up for the Dunbar, I expect her to improve. She has a front row draw. She's $3.60, and Mr. Kaplan, the other one in the market, at about $7.50.
Yeah, I think this is a tricky race. I mean, I really love Artisan. She's a lovely little darling of a horse. She's not a big, bold art major like some of them can be, but second line draws 1,700, Group 2 at the park. It's tricky stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if she came into that park to 1, Greg, but there's a reason you're getting $2.90. I actually think there's a sneaky chance in this race. I think American Beauty's a pretty good horse. Yep. And she rolled into a gallop last start and had no chance afterwards. Admittedly, she's got the second line as well. So, confusing race, no firm opinion yet. Wouldn't be surprised if the second line horses could overcome that, Greg, but as you and I both know, over a long period of time, you start backing horses off the second line in sprint races at Alexandra Park, and you're more likely to be Eddie McDonald's in stake come Sunday night.
Yeah, that's right. You'll go broke pretty quickly there for sure. $50,000 terminating pick 6 there on Friday night. Craig Thompson in the studio to guide you through that. So an excellent night to be involved at the park for Woodlands Derby night, and of course Pasco's the Jewellers. They've been long-time sponsors of the Oaks, and the other Group 1 race, of course, being the Cardigan Bay with Brecon Farms. We're about to take a short break on your box seat. When we come back, we'll head down the road from where I am anyway to Ashburton to wrap up a couple of features from there last Saturday and all of the Australian action. Yes, don't forget, it's Miracle Mile weekend ahead. Welcome back into your box seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors, of course. One of those is the Ashburton Raceway, and on Saturday last week they had one of their bigger days, and we kicked things off with a look back at the Sapling Stakes. Just 8 went to the post, and there was an upset. This has happened in this race a few times. They are not really hugely exposed to the punters, and there was another one last week. Let's get Matt Cross to bring them home and then hear from winning trainer and driver Gavin Smith.
My Ultimate Chevron, the debutantes piercing through on debut. My Ultimate Chevron wins the Sapling Stakes. My Ultimate Chevron beats Tide and Time. Third, Get Crackin'. Fourth, Celtic Spirit.
Well, I'm picking that'll be a pretty big buzz.
Yeah, real big buzz, Greg. A little bit unexpected. I only threw him in as a late non because they were short of numbers, hoping I'd draw one and be able to follow the fence and maybe run top 4 because he's got a bit of speed.
You had to show that speed, and I'll tell you what, if you hadn't have won, you would have been pretty unlucky.
Yeah, well, from 8, I thought we were going to need a fair bit of luck, so we still went the markers. But turning for home, he was always the winner as long as the gap come, and he actually sort of took the leeway up a bit too quick before the gap had opened, so we got lucky that it came early enough or we would have had to check his momentum, but he won it with a bit in hand, so it's really pleasing because I did think he'd probably be a run short too.
Now, my naivety would suggest that I don't know who Tumby Park are, so you better tell me.
They're actually quite big players, Scott and Jody Whitten. They've got a lot of horses in Aussie, generally with Jared Elchin in Sydney, but he races a lot in Queensland too. Breeds a lot and supports the sales. Bought this guy at the yearling sales last year, and he also had a couple from the weanling sales. So they stay here if they're good enough, and if they're not going to be up to the age group racing, they head to Aussie. And yeah, it's just really good to win from him. He's been a great owner, and he really supports our game. Like, he probably buys, I'd estimate, a couple of month running horses from trainers over here to race in Aussie. So he's done a lot for our game, so it's good we can give it back.
Right, it's a very big win for you, and now I guess you're going to have to start thinking about a pathway for this horse.
Yeah, well, look, I'm pleased he stepped up. I sort of wasn't sure with him. He's always had the speed. I just wasn't sure if the strength was there, and we've got another nice one at home too, so it might be nice to have a two-pronged attack for a change, and both for people that won't sell.
156.5, the winning time there, Michael. I'm not sure about the depth, and it's so early on in the 2-year-old days, but you can only line up and win it to come from the outside. It was an excellent performance, and that's an important win for Gavin Smith. He hasn't had the group horses that he probably would have liked maybe over the last 12 or 18 months, but he's got one for sure with this one by Sweet Lou, and it might have just come a week or two late for Sweet Lou off the back of the sales.
Yeah, I think the Sweet Lou's are going to be fine long term at the sales, Greg, but much like Always Be Mickey last season, sometimes they're fashionable or not as fashionable during different sales weeks. You're good on Gavin. As you said, he threw the horse in the race, and you can't win if you're not there. It's easy to look at the race and think, well, these horses aren't superstar 2-year-olds, but they still went 56. And that's about comparable of what they usually go in the Sapling Stakes first or second sort of run in. So they'll improve a lot. They tend to go 56, and then they can easily clip 2 seconds off that, Greg, in the next start or two to get down to some really serious times. How good these bunch are, I don't know. As Gavin said, great to have owners from Australia supporting racing here, putting money in people's pockets, and they're likely to not sell those type of horses. So I thought it was quite a refreshing Sapling Stakes, Greg, and we didn't see an All-Stars domination, which we've probably spoken about for the last 10 years on the week after the Sapling Stakes. And yeah, onwards and upwards for this crop. Who's the best of them? I have zero idea.
Let's move on to the Hambletonian, and we found out who's the best at the moment anyway. 5 Wise Men. Made it 4 wins from just the 6 starts. We'll talk about some of the others out of this post-race. This is the Newman Tyres Vipal Hambletonian, and it was down the centre of the track. The winning performance from 5 Wise Men.
Leaf Stride leads. Here's 5 Wise Men. He's barrelling down centre track. Leaf Stride leads. 5 Wise Men comes at him the outside. 5 Wise Men wins the Hambletonian. 5 Wise Men beats Leaf Stride. Time up the hill late for third ahead of Maui.
John, a very professional performance, which we come to expect from this horse.
Yeah, he's getting better all the time, which is good. And still, you wouldn't want to push him too hard early, but it was quite good to sort of pose it up in a nice place. But when he lets down at Australia, he's got that speed, and he feels like he can keep going with it.
Yeah, he picked them up pretty comfortably today. What's ahead? Where do we go next?
No, just muck around sort of down here, the Derby, and for you, sort of a couple of grade races. I think that's all that's sort of coming up, and a bit more experience, be good for him.
Yep. The family that obviously Craig knows very well out of Harriet Hughes, and a big group of owners involved in this one.
Yeah, really good bunch of fellas too, so it's good. And yeah, like you say, it's been an unbelievable family really, so hopefully you can keep going.
It's been a massive week for you and your dad sales-wise. I think you got 16 or 17 yearlings, and I suppose at the end of it, it just shows you the depth and staff you've got as well to keep these horses ticking over in a week that you've been very busy.
Yeah, big credit goes to them. Like you say, you can't do it all by yourself, and very lucky we've got great staff at home. So yeah, it makes our job very easy.
Michael, 157.6 the winning time. Leaf Stride good in second. Short course racing, I think, suiting him at the moment. The other of the Williamson runners, Lovin' the Port, I spoke to Phil about that. They've taken blood. He said, I expected with the run he had him to be right in the finish, but he actually trotted roughly and never went past a horse. And Want to Play With Me galloped about the 500 metre mark. There was just a bit of a Constantina effect, and sort of ran into the back of the sulky of 5 Wise Men and gallop. So, yeah, I think we can forgive her, but all the credit has to go with 5 Wise Men. We weren't sure if it was 3, 4 or 5 Wise Men last week, but we know now it was 5.
I think if you backed him, Greg, you don't care. You get your money and a bit more back. He's pretty good. He's got a lot of scope. I think he's a horse who's going to keep getting better because he doesn't have a huge body of work behind him. He wasn't part of those sort of weird 2 into 3-year-old season hybrid we had last September, October. So, yeah, clearly a Derby type of horse. I think a few of these horses are just at an interesting time in their careers. Whether they're natural 2-year-olds who became 3-year-olds and will go on with it, we'll find out. And whether, who's the boss now will still be the boss in 2 months' time is hard to tell. But 5 Wise Men, as opposed to 3 Wise Men, Greg, I think has to be the Derby favourite at this stage because He's the one who every time he goes onto the track seems to be getting that little bit better. And coming from back in the field to run past leaders at Ashburton in a 1:57.6 mile for 3-year-old trotters, Greg, hasn't been done a lot in this race in the last decade.
No, it takes some doing. The other very good run out of the race, Michael, was Time Up the Hill, the filly who drew the outside gate, and she was charging late in the piece there, getting into 3rd position for the ward. So she's one to follow, particularly when she's against her own sex and the likes of the Oaks. Better's Tart, speaking of ladies, she took out the Neville conditioned heat, found the front, in front, too strong here, Michael, 156.2, and she's putting together a really good record.
Yes, she is, as is her trainer. Every time you see Brett White's colours, you think to yourself, okay, here's a guy who's going to have a chance. He's a very good strike rate trainer and one of those trainers who the punters like. So 156 around Ashburton, that's usually a sign it's a good drive by the guy in front, because it means you haven't gone to the well and you're giving the horses back in the field not much chance. So, yep, job done for Better's Tart. And as I said, Brett White's a guy who I think, Greg, a lot of the punters are starting to respect.
Yeah, underutilised Stephen McNally, and a very good judge of pace, passion and power, getting itself into second. But Better's Tart books her spot for the Group 1 in May, the Neville Fillies final. So that's a look there at Ashburton. Congratulations to them too. They did a great job there on Saturday, and an excellent race program. As it is Addington Raceway on Friday night, earlier start, in fact, 11 minutes past 3 they kick things off, so it will lead into that massive night at Alexandra Park. Some smart horses going around, including Steal the Show. He resumes in race number 2. Last start effort was behind Tango Tara in the Ashburton Cup. This is him at the workouts. Michael Homan, 56.9. He settled beautifully in this race. Corbin Newman was aboard and he won nicely, and he's a smarty, this guy.
Yeah, he is. I think he's a New Zealand Cup horse come November if he keeps improving. And he's a horse I thought was more tough and rough and tumble, but as you saw there, pulled out of the 1-1 nice and balanced and beat a pretty good field. So, yep, clearly one of those horses who down in that intermediate type grade, just getting to the slightly higher grades, is always going to be hard to beat, Greg.
Yeah, and that was Dad and Dave, who is a race rival, along with his stablemates Henry Hubert and Classy Brigade. So it's a pretty good sort of a race there, race number 2. But you better be onto it nice and early. It's 3:39 the start time there. The Lazarus Stakes, Michael, is for the 3-year-olds up to rating 70. It's a good race too, and they race for $20,000. Costello David. A lot of people have been waiting for this horse to return to the racetrack off the back of his maiden victory on Cup Day. He's big, he's strong, he's heading towards the Derby probably, and on this he should go very close in this race too.
Well, he's been backed to win the Derby, not for huge money, but there's somebody out there, potentially an owner, who has a bit of confidence he's a Derby type of horse. Racing with the head up, Greg, it's one of those things I don't love in horses. It's not always a bad thing. I mean, we don't see it a lot with the paces with the head right up in the air racing like that. You see it more on the gallopers from the northerly type horses, but it just makes him look new. It makes him look like a horse who still has a lot to learn. Maybe he's always going to race like that. I'm not sure, but clearly he's got a big motor. He looks a 5-6 win horse just without needing to improve, Greg. How much he improves, much like a Regazzo Max situation, is going to be the key determinant between his chances in the Derby between now and then.
Yeah, and of course Dashing Majors in there, Pace and Pride, got you covered. So it's a pretty deep sort of a race. Be a good guide as to where he's at in the Renwick's own, and they had a big week, of course, at the sales. So that's Addington Raceway on Friday afternoon into the evening. Time for us with Garrards to head across the Tasman and catch the action from last week and preview some of the stuff that's coming up, Michael. And Majestic Man, well, he got his chance to get Group 1 glory again. Phil Williamson was hoping for him to get an economical trip. We show the start because a beautiful piece of driving here from Brad Williamson got him through the bunch and eventually to the lead, Michael, and effectively in the Grand Prix that was the winning of the race.
Yeah, that's him punching through, of course, in Phil's well-known colours, the black with the sash. He gets through here early, Brad, and keeps pressing on. There's a galloper in front of him and some of the other key contenders ended up behind him. So very, very smart drive. We often talk about horses punching through from the second line, but quite often it doesn't work out the way we think it's going to. It was beautiful here. got round to the lead, and that was the end of that. So, look, I think he's the best of these trotters going round in this bunch. I've got no doubts about that. He's just had absolutely no luck in the Great Southern Star. He now heads to Menangle on Saturday night. It's a $50,000 Group 1 trot, and he's got barrier 3, and I think he's a perfect Menangle horse. He likes to run hard. He doesn't take prisoners. He should lead, Greg, and I wouldn't be stunned if he went 53 and change. So Johnny Turner was reporting this week his connections have turned down a substantial offer for the horse, or either that or the offer was withdrawn. One way or the other, the offer isn't going ahead and the horse is going to be staying in New Zealand once he comes back. But there's Brad with the trophy. He's had 2 Group 1s in Australia now, Brad. And Greg, I think this trip will be the making of Brad. He's a guy I've had a lot of time for. I think he's a good horseman and a good driver, but also over there he would have learnt some things. And I think he'll come back an even better driver. So like all of us in life, bit of travel, bit of a new experience, won't do him any harm at all.
No, $1.55 if you want to take that on Saturday night, and the Group 1 there out of Menangle for the Trotters. And I did speak to Phil Williamson, obviously delighted to get the win. He'll be coming home and be set for the Anzac Cup Row Cup, so he'll miss Addington Raceway, and fair enough, he's had a pretty arduous trip over there, and of course Brad still has to come home and sit out those couple of weeks in quarantine. So it's been about a $100,000 experiment so far, or close to it, and of course he gets that chance to pick up some more on Saturday night. Well, let's continue on with our look at the Miracle Mile and the key lead-up races, both at Group 1 level. Let's go to the Allied Express and see that Wolfstride has arrived, Michael.
He sure has. That's him third from the outside in the Emilio Rosati colours. Now, just in behind the horse who's hitting the lead is Mark Shard, who's luckless and ducks to the inside for third. But Wolfstride's a fascinating story. He's a horse who used to have mental issues, and one night at Bankstown, he actually ran into the outside fence. Then Anthony Butt took over his training with Sonia Smith, and they've done a super job with him. Won the Group 1 Regional Championship back here in May at Menangle, comes out and wins this race. Very reminiscent of the racing style of Field Marshall, who won the Miracle Mile. He's not as good as Field Marshall yet. He's got a tricky barrier draw in the Miracle Mile, Greg, but he'll be driven the same way, and that's coming from off the speed. I'm not sure it's his race this Saturday night, but I am sure he's got more Grand Circuit chances ahead of him. Very, very progressive horse is Wolfstride. Mark Shard finishing third there in Luckless. He misses out on the Miracle Mile. First emergency, he'll head to the Free for All, where he'll be the favourite. And Ultra Orlando was really good in front with that New Zealand connection, and he has barrier 4 in the mile on Saturday night and could well be the early leader.
Yeah, and of course he's one of only 2 returning to the Miracle Mile from last year's event, including this horse, the defending champion, King of Swing, making it a double for Twist and Twirl, with of course a Better Twist winning on Friday night at Alexandra Park. And the same double could unfold this week, Michael, because with Garrard's, when he's in front and dominating like this, he's almost unbeatable.
Yep, so that's him in front, obviously winning, as you mentioned. There's Ignatius, who was the surprise horse into the Miracle Mile. He ran 4th. He sat parked outside him. The reason I'm mentioning Ignatius is 2 things. He ran 4th but still got in. So the committee said, no, we rate that stronger form than the thirds from the 2 preludes. But most importantly, he's the fly in the ointment for King of Swing. The general thought process is that Ultra Orlando will cross them early. King of Swing follows him across, gets the lead. If that happens, this is basically, should be race over. But Ignatius, who was a really good 3-year-old, then he sort of lost his form, seems to have regained his gate speed. And I think the only chance he's got of winning is being hustled off the gate and holding these horses. I'm not sure he can do it anyway, Greg. But if he can do it, then the complexion of the race changes and you don't want to take the $1.40 for King of Swing because he might have to sit parked. I do think the best driver in Menangle history is Luke McCarthy. I think he'll fire King of Swing up off the gate, or he'll be able to judge early whether Ultra Orlando is getting across and he's getting the lead from the stablemate. I expect him to be in front at the 800 metres in the Miracle Mile, and I expect him to win. But there is that little caveat that Ignatius has shown really good gate speed these 2 starts this campaign, and it's not just a line-up and win job. He should win, but the $1.40 is short enough, with the fact that if that was to happen, Greg, the swoopers, Wolfstride, who we've seen, and Stylish Memphis, who we're about to see, are good enough to maybe be beneficiaries of that.
Yeah, $1.35 he is, King of Swing, to win the $1 million Miracle Mile with Garrards. One horse that will be looking to swoop down the outside did exactly that. She did it in the Chariots, and then she produced this to win the Ladyship. Brilliant performance, getting to the outside. One of a couple of Group 1s on the night for Jack Trainer, who of course started his career here in New Zealand, had about 17 or 18 wins in that caper, and this was outstanding, Michael.
I think she's a horse, as we see her here, not in the Mark Jones colours because they use drivers' colours in Sydney at the moment, of course. I think she's a horse who's better suited to Australian racing, Greg. You know, she won the New South Wales Oaks last year. She was second in the Victoria Oaks. I just think she likes following the speed, and the hot speed there really suits her. She's a wonderful mare. I never saw her as a Miracle Mile mare because we tend to think of Amazing Dream being a better mare over here, but I just think she's suited to that type of racing with the hot speed on, Greg. Barrier 8 in the Miracle Mile's brutal. You wouldn't back any horse to win a Miracle Mile from Barrier 8, so she'll probably be last on the outer. If Ignatius can hold and it gets really heated up front, maybe she's still got a chance, Greg, but the person who knows more about it than both you and I was the man you spoke to yesterday in Mark Jones.
Well, Mark, Stylish Memphis, she's now a two-time Group 1 winner around at Menangle, and another devastating finish from her to take out the second of her Group 1.
Yeah, probably worked out being a good move going Aussie to try and get another Group 1 and dodge Amazing Dream in that here. And, you know, she's going phenomenal over there to come from last, you know, run half 52 and be too good for those mares. And I think her run in the Chariots the week before was as good as any horse could go at Menangle. So, you know, she's thriving over there. Jack's doing a great job with her and driving her great and looking after her super. So, yeah, it's been a pretty good move. And I think the horse deserved the Group 1, you know, on Saturday night.
Mark, you talk about this horse and the need perhaps that 3 to 4 runs deep in a row was going to be tough. Now she's into her 5th week in a row. What's the report from Jack in terms of how she's handling it? Obviously, she's thriving.
Yeah, Jack said she's thriving. She ate up after the race and, yeah, she's doing anything good. But I think it's probably a thing where she's had a great foundation in New Zealand and Ricky's looked after her in a lot of her races. And, you know, my horses have great foundation work and they seem to be able to cop the racing. And to go 5 weeks in a row, Menangle is a big ask, but when you're racing for $1 million, there's no money sitting in the box. But I think just the way Ricky's looked after her throughout her career and, you know, we haven't gone to the well too much with her and in the right races, she's got the right runs. So that's held her in this good stead. And over a mile at Menangle, she does seem to love that hard going. So, you know, I just think the foundation work's been the key to her success.
Mark, she comes up with the outside draw in the ultimate test with the defending champion King of Swing drawn so well. We know she'll be finding the line. We know that for sure. But to do it against the mares as opposed to this week against the boys, it's no easy task.
No, it's a lot harder, Greg. You know, like King of Swings can go 48 and still run home in 25. So, you know, we need them to go extremely hard. And whether they do that, you're still going to be given these, you know, great horses 5 or 6 lengths turning for home. So, you know, I'm sure she'll go a great race, but it makes it extremely hard when you've got to come wide and to beat these good horses. But, you know, I'm sure she'll do us proud. And if things go away, she definitely won't disgrace herself.
Mark, it's a gutsy play to take her over there, represent New Zealand in so many ways because of the lack of numbers we've had at this carnival. What do you do with her post the Miracle Mile?
Yeah, I'm probably lucky. Like, we've got good people to look after them and Jack's doing a great job. And at this stage, she'll probably have a break after the Miracle Mile. And, you know, there's nothing for the mares in New Zealand after the mares races the other week. So she'll probably have another preparation there. And at this stage, look to just fly back in for the jewels, you know, the hit and run mission. And we may look at the Queensland Carnival in the winter or after the jewels get her ready for the New Zealand Cup. But just frustrating the lack of opportunities here in New Zealand for the open mares. And, you know, she can race in Sydney for 30,000 each week. So at this stage, she'll be there till probably at least, you know, the end of May.
So delighted to have a horse in the Miracle Mile, of course, Mark Jones, $14 if you want to find out. So, Michael, in summary, it's King of Swing's race to lose?
If he leads, he'll probably just win because there's no attackers in the race. The horses who are drawn 6, 7 and 8, Greg, aren't going to come around and attack. So if he leads, he'll probably win. I reckon he's about 60 to 70% chance, as best I can work it out, to be in front at the 800. Ignatius is the concern, but he also has the bonus King of Swing, of Ultra Orlando being so quick off the gate that he might be able to cross anyway, and he would definitely hand up. If Ultra Orlando, who Chris Alford will drive, could get across them, Greg, he becomes a super place chance for the second year in a row. Other New Zealand form around this carnival, Bad to the Bones, won back-to-back races, has been really good. Mark Shard's going to do a job over there, absolutely no doubts, Greg. So even though it's not quite our usual Miracle Mile input from a New Zealand point of view, good on Mark Jones having the courage of his convictions to send stylish Memphis there, because Greg, you can't win Group 1s if you're not in them.
No, and she's backing up for the 5th week in a row, so Jack Trainer deserves plenty of plaudits there, as he does for this drive, Michael. The Oaks winning drive from last week. Antonia is her name. Got to the outside and trained by David Thorne. That's her with the orange and black breastplate, and this was a really strong finishing burst.
Yeah, she's a good filly. She's a really good filly. Now, the 3 fillies she's running past here are all Emma Stewart trained horses. Now, that's not easy. That's Australia's version of beating the All-Stars when they have 3 in a Group 1. He had to sit 3 fence on a solid pace, come around them and beat them. 3 Emma Stewart horses to run past at the top of the straight at Menangle. Not an easy performance. David Thorne trains this one. David, of course, well known in New Zealand. He has plenty of former New Zealand horses in his barn. And yep, she's a pretty good filly, Greg. I would suggest outside Better Twist, who I think's close to exceptional on occasions. Those fillies are pretty much as good as our fillies over here. They're a pretty good bunch.
What about the Derby, Michael? Group 1 level. The 3 heat winners were Pat's Beach Storm, Idyllic and Tasty Delight. Which way are you swaying this week?
I think Tasty Delight by the barrier draw has a huge advantage. Brian Portelli drives him, and a lot of people would say, I don't know this Brian Portelli. Who is such a person? He won the Bathurst Gold Crown on this horse last year, Greg, so he drives okay. He doesn't drive a lot apart from his own horses. Good horse, Tasty Delight. It's actually quite a deep field, and again, I think we're seeing a closing of the gap between their 3-year-olds and ours. I don't think our 3-year-olds are much better than theirs, to be completely honest. He's top pick. But again, it's going to come down to how hard they go, Greg, because a lot of these horses outside the heat last week haven't raced over the 2,400 metres. Spoke to Luke McCarthy yesterday. He said Idyllic has to be a chance, but of course he has been given a very hard barrier draw to overcome. So if it's a 152, 53 mile rate, they're all in play. If it's a 155, 156, Greg, then Tasty Delight on the front end of the field should be the one to beat.
All right, that's a look at Menangle Saturday night. So a couple of very big days of racing, both sides of the Tasman. Friday, Alexandra Park, complemented by Addington, and of course, Menangle on Saturday. What else is ahead for you? We'll find out when we return and come into your home straight in your box seat. Welcome back into your box seat. Let's get around this great nation of ours and find out where the harness racing action is this weekend. And Thursday, we do have the Winton Club. 11 races there, 2:54 the start time, meeting code of 7 there. Cambridge race as well, 8 races, 5:10 the start time for that. They're on the meeting code of 6. The big night, Alexandra Park, $200,000 Group 1 Woodland Stud Northern Derby. The Pascoes, the Jewellers, Northern Oaks at the same level. And of course the Brecon Farms Young Gun Cardigan Bay Stakes. We have the Delightful Lady, we have the City of Auckland Free For All, we have the Northern Mares Classic, the Green Lane Cup, and a $50,000 guaranteed terminating pick 6 to get you involved there. 10 races underway, 5:28 the Alexandra Park meeting, one to be savoured for sure. Addington Raceway, 10 races there, afternoon start. The club deciding that given the COVID situation, why wouldn't you have that? 3:11 there. Then we go to Sunday. Things might have changed by then. Down by the Seaside Leonard Memorial Stakes and the $13,000 Cheviot Cup and Oamaru race next Wednesday. 2:17 the start time there. Just a note too from Brian Rabbit at Addington Raceway, the couple of premier meetings coming up. Sandwiched in the middle of that is Easter Saturday. They're looking at running a free-for-all mile, which I think is a great idea. there. I think the record, Michael, was about 1:57.2 for the trotters over the mile. It'll be a small select field, but it gives those horses potentially like Bolt for Brilliance who might come a 3-race attack, if you like. I think it's a smart move. And do you know the mare's record at Addington's about 2:2, so only needs to be one mare line up in it and they might break that record, or will break that record.
Well, Greg, you've got to give them a chance. If you put these free-for-alls on and people don't want to compete, then they can't complain about having no opportunities to compete. So put them on and give them a crack at it. Yeah, mile racing at Addington, it's been a controversial thing over a long period of time, but a couple of records there up for the offing, Greg. Going to be interesting to see how that carnival goes, how many northerners come down for that carnival. But one thing I think has been good this week, Greg, has been how rational the harness racing people have tended to be about what's going on Friday night. Some people would like to be there and some people, I'm sure, booked their flights and would like to go, but there hasn't been a lot of carry-on. The messaging's been relatively clear. And the bottom line is simple as this: if you're a horse person, it's your job. If you want to apply for an exemption to go and you're working there, then do so. You're legally allowed to. And then you can make the choice to go whether or not. Greg, if I was a horse person, I would apply for an exemption and just keep it in my back pocket, just in case I needed it, because I think this may not be the last time this happens to us. And if it happens again, I think it's unfair for people to keep losing their wages because of a couple of potentially irresponsible individuals. So if I was a horse person, I'd be applying for some sort of travel exemption. Yep. And if it's in your back pocket, Greg, like for example Dylan and Peter Ferguson had, because they're smart guys, they know how to work the system. They are able to go there and drive this week, and that's fitting, because if they couldn't and Dylan had the chance of missing a Group 1, that wouldn't be fair.
No.
So if you're not going to apply for these things, or if you're not going to get on Google and search how to do them and you're just going to be confused by it, well then you're not letting anybody down but yourself. You don't have to go, but you have to give yourself the opportunity to go. And if you don't give yourself that opportunity and work the system to your advantage, as long as you feel safe doing so, of course, then you've got no one to blame but yourself.
No, that's right. Let's move to Cheviot on Sunday, and it is the Leonard Memorial down by the seaside, the sponsor of this one. And Michael, I think we're up to about the 54th running of this very good race. Looking at the horse that's 3 back on the fence here, Playfully. She won on debut for Regan Todd. Didn't get clear here. Momentum stopped, and crucial at a stage of a career that she's at. And I thought she found the line really strongly. She'll get a great chance from a middle of the front row draw this week, and it's always been a very good race.
It has been. It's been a race which sort of half kick-starts the South Island version of the 2-year-old fillies. Of course, we have the delightful lady for the North Island version, Greg. But yeah, again, I think we're seeing a whole bunch of 2-year-olds where it could be a different story in a month and a vastly different story by the time we get to the Jewels in June. So interested to see how it plays out. And that's why we have the races on Sunday. We'll get another indicator of who are the top dogs, or in this case, fillies.
Yeah, Michael, and a horse that had a very similar run down there at the Waikouaiti Cup on Sunday was a smarty. His name is Last of the Mohicans, and it's almost a replica of the video we just watched before. You see Ricky May there in the Lawrence Hanrahan colours. He doesn't get a run until this race is effectively over. He'd won his first 3 starts, and I think on Sunday in the Cheviot Cup there won't be any unluckiness about him, Michael. If he steps like he can, he may well find the front, and if he does, he's been a winner at Addington in that position before. I reckon he'll win the Cheviot Cup, and I think he's a very much progressive country cups type horse that can go an awfully long way.
Yeah, key factor here is after the line. So you're watching this, you can see he can't get a run until late in the piece for Ricky, but after the line, he was very, very strong. So put an extra 100 metres on this race, or give him that gap 100 metres earlier, and he would have won, and he'd be back 10 metres for this race, Greg.
Yep.
So, yep, he's the horse to beat for sure. And yeah, another nice horse for Lawrence. Good to see Lawrence, who's a really good fella with a couple of nice horses around him.
Yeah, nice win there too by She's Tough for Brad Mowbray, getting the business done in the hands of Johnny Cox. What about our hits and misses from the tab from last week? If you say so, decent play there, 3,000 at $3.40. Copy that, no fears there, 7,000 at $1.40. Couple that came unstuck included Need You Now, 6,000 at $1.55, and Super Bass, who was heavily backed, 5,000 there at $2.30, as was the case for Executive Banner, who went around in the Sapling Stakes. Long-term bets, Michael. Your Kobe's been back there to win the Diamond Creek Farm, so yep, that derby is looming ever closer.
Yeah, and of course the news last week that Regazo Mac has been sold and we head to the Bonds in Perth, but he is going to start in the derby. But gee, it's an interesting derby. It's like the trotting derby, they both feel open. If somebody said the 7th favourite won, you go, okay, I can see that. Whereas in some of the Lazarus type years, you sort of half know who's going to win. So I think it's really interesting. Some interesting misses there last week. I think it's been an interesting time for the punters. They're still adjusting to the new world of harness racing and all the things that are going on. I really do think the bookies have given some huge overs this week at Alexandra Park. Now, we're having a dreadful run. We just can't pick our nose at the moment, which is ironic considering how big my nose is. But this week I was going to go for Need Junera as my best bet until they gave $1.70 for Better Twist. I wasn't going to tip it because I thought she'd be $1.20 or $1.30. $1.70. I'd take that all day, Greg. All day and all night. She's my bet of the week now. I know it's only tight money, but to be perfectly honest, the only meeting I've studied in depth is Alexandra Park, and most of the favoured runners there are going to be tight. Just as easily could be Krug. 320 for Krug, Greg. I thought they'd give 220 or 240. So again, I think there's some really good opportunities. This is a good week to bet. Craig will be in the studio to take you through Friday night, which is 6 group and 1 listed race, one of the great nights of harness racing in our country.
Yeah, I just noticed there too, the Cardigan Bays dropped back to Group 2. I thought it was always a Group 1, but anyway, that was my bad there. I went with Last of the Mohicans with Door Contracting as well. You saw why that run on Sunday. He only needs to reproduce that and have an ounce of luck, and he'll be winning there at the Cheviot meeting. Michael, we've had a couple of things unfold in the media over the last week, and again, it's a situation where nobody's been charged yet, so it's not really our position to be commenting. So I think we'll just leave that until the authorities have played out and conducted their inquiry into that. But it's hardly ideal for a sport that we both love.
Well, Greg, there's a rule of the media, unless anybody's been charged or unless the police or authorities come out and make statements, there's no point carrying on about who may or may not have had horses scratched or had people turn up at their properties, because sometimes those things lead to be nothing, as we've learnt from Operation Inca. Sometimes people get called into police stations, it turns out to be absolutely nothing wrong. So that's why you don't jump up and down about them. Some parts of the media seem to see that differently. Makes me wonder who they get their phone calls from.
Yep, well, we'll leave that there for now. What we won't leave is the way the Team Teal operation is going. Of course, it goes to the middle of this month. Samantha Rotley heads the list there with her 15, well ahead of Sarah O'Reilly and Cherie Tomlinson, but they're all doing a great job. And of course, we're nearly at 19,000 as at the 1st of this month. So well done to HRNZ. We'll keep you updated until that is completed. Michael, that completes our preview show in many respects, because it's such a big week of harness racing both sides of the Tasman ahead. Thanks so much for your input as per the norm.
Looking forward to Friday night, Greg, and I think the harness racing industry is doing its best under very trying circumstances. I feel sorry for the club. They have one of their major nights which is going to be curtailed, but of course there's more important things in the world, Greg, and if we don't lose any New Zealanders or have anybody get terribly sick out of this pretty horrible incident over the last week or so, that's probably far more, no, not probably, definitely far more important.
It certainly is, Michael. That's been your Box C. Both Michael and I will see you again in 7 days' time.